Hi, everybody.
Praying.
This is Heath Einstein, Dean of Admission at TCU, and we are coming to you live from my house, which is a little bit unusual. Normally when we do these functions, these Facebook Lives, it's from the Office of Admission. And just to show you that we're doing okay during the pandemic, this is my family with me. It's my wife, Diana, and my kids, Levin and Adiel and Asher, and our cat, Ruby. Say hi, everybody.
Hi.
We are so excited to be with you. You guys can go and, play basketball or whatever you want to do. And we're going to talk to you for the next 30 or 45 or 60 minutes about all things TCU. And please ask as many questions as you would like. This is now Admission Central here in our respective houses as we manage the COVID-19 pandemic, but we're still all business as usual. We're working really hard to make sure that we've got a great class of students coming in next fall. So like I said, we're going to be here for really as much time as you'd like to be. Go ahead and ask questions. I've got a couple of folks from our office who are helping me out. Mandy Castro, our Director of Undergraduate Admission, and Ray Person, Assistant Director of Admission. They are also with me. And I want to point out they're not with me physically. We are adhering to the mandate for social distancing, but they are in their respective homes, and they're going to be helping out by feeding me questions that you have, as well as responding to some of the questions that you have if we're not able to. Oh, I see Sherry Brown from Southern California. Super excited that you're with us as a Southern California native. Go Lakers. Okay, so bear with me if we've got some technical difficulties. I think that's another important reminder. I have got, as I mentioned, Admission Central here. So I've got a couple of monitors up trying to respond to the questions as they appear. And again, the focus here is really to talk about the admission process at TCU and to answer any questions that you might have about admissions, and whether you are a prospective student or parent, or you are a student who's already been admitted to TCU, or a parent of an admitted TCU student. We want to be able to answer any of the questions that you might have. Some of you I know already have posted some questions about how the university is responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, and what is in store for our current students. And I will respond as appropriate, but I also want to point out that it's really important that you keep up to date with what's posted on the university website. Our marketing and communication team, headed by Vice Chancellor Tracy Seiler-Jones, is doing an amazing job of staying out in front of the news. And when the university crafts responses, whether it is from an academic standpoint or a student services standpoint, we are getting that communication out to you as quickly as possible. I know one person was asking about commencement. We don't yet have a response for that. It has not been canceled at this point. And Chancellor Boschini posted a beautiful message last night on YouTube that I would encourage all of you to see, just talking about in general how TCU is responding. And this is us coming together as a community. And one of the things that I think is really important for prospective families to consider at this point is how we're treating current students, because how TCU or how any college treats its current students says a lot about how they will treat future students. So as you're looking at all the different colleges that you've been admitted to, it's really important to consider what are the policies that the universities are enacting to make sure that the students are really well cared for. I can report that we have here on day 2 of online instruction for the university run into very few glitches, which is a great sign. Our faculty worked so hard over the last week and a half to prepare so that the students will get instruction in as uninterrupted a way as possible. So again, go ahead and post those questions, and we will do our best to be able to answer them. Jack Martino asks, can you double major at TCU? And first of all, Jack, congratulations on your admission to TCU. We really hope to see you here in the fall. The answer is absolutely. Students can double major. Our curriculum is designed for students to be able to explore as many of the over 100 areas of academic discipline as possible. So for most students, about a third of your coursework will be completed within our core curriculum. About a third of the courses will be completed within your major, and that leaves about a third for elective classes. And some students will choose to use that space for picking up a second major. Others will just take classes that are of interest to them, like beef cattle production. Who knew? But you can do that at TCU because we have an awesome ranch management program. So lots of different choices for our students. And again, it's meant to be very user-friendly. We have an excellent advising system in place, and your advisors will help you work through your schedule and create a 4-year plan that's going to be to your best benefit in terms of your ability to take the classes that are of interest to you and prepare you well for life after TCU. So Jake, thanks again for that question, and we're excited to welcome you to campus. Mariana asks, let's see, is orientation for incoming freshmen still going to happen? And should we sign up? Absolutely, orientation will happen. We've been in frequent contact with our first year experience office. What they have reported to us is they are in the midst of creating a plan that's going to look quite a bit different from what the orientation and frog camps that we've done in the past. But never fear, you absolutely will have a first-year experience that's going to prepare you well for being part of the TCU community. One of the things that we learned a long time ago is that the number one reasons why students transfer from one college to another, and I'm not speaking specifically about TCU, but all students, the primary factor, what it comes down to is lack of connection. And so we built our first year experience programs to capitalize on opportunities to connect students so that when they arrive on campus in the fall, they feel like they have a network already developed. And that's going to be our thinking even as we recreate the first year experience for this coming year in a year that's going to look a little bit different at the start. We will always keep that front and center, that our students are going to be able to connect with one another in ways that by the time that Thanksgiving break rolls around, you're not even going to want to go home to see mom and dad because you're going to be so excited by everything that you're seeing at TCU. As of right now, the registration deadline has been pushed back. It's probably going to be around May 1st. And I think this is a really good time to discuss one important change that we made in the Office of Admission related to deadlines. Most people, I think, are aware that the national candidate reply date traditionally has been May 1st. We have extended our deposit deadline until June 1st for incoming first-year students. And we did that for a couple of reasons. Mostly, and of primary concern, is how are our admitted students and parents doing at this moment in time? There's so much going on in the world, so much uncertainty, not the least of which is financial uncertainty. And so to ask families to make the financial commitment to come to TCU when the news is changing on a seemingly hourly basis seemed a little short-sighted on our part. So we said, let's give folks an extra month to make that decision. We know that there are some downstream effects as a result of that with respect to housing and first-year experience and all sorts of other things. But when we spoke to our partners around campus, I think there was some agreement that this is going to be what's best for families. So that's the decision that we have made. What that's also done for us is it's allowed us to gear up our digital presence from the standpoint of allowing students to be able to visit campus virtually. We have a host of programs that we conduct on our campus during the month of April. April is the most popular time for students to visit campus, whether they've been admitted to TCU or they're high school juniors. And now that we have closed campus through the end of the semester, that possibility doesn't exist. So by extending the deposit deadline an extra month, it also gives us a little time to beef up on some of the programming that we're going to be providing. So for example, we're going to be launching to admitted students here in the next day. They're going to get a message from us that's inviting them to have one-on-one appointments with our admission counselors so they can ask any questions that they want. If they're not able to be with us here on Facebook Live, they have 20 minutes at their disposal, one-on-one, to ask any questions that they might have. So that's one thing that we've done, but we're putting a lot of other things in place. So thanks for that question. I'm seeing some more. Let's see. Angela asks, I haven't visited campus yet. Will there be an opportunity for me to come visit before I have to commit? And again, that I think speaks exactly to the reasoning why we're extending by a month. We don't know when we're going to be able to open campus again. We certainly hope sooner rather than later. One of the things that distinguishes TCU is our gorgeous physical plant. If you've been to TCU, you know that right about now, the purple tulips are everywhere and the campus is in full bloom. And so we want to be able to showcase our campus. And we also want to be able to have you meet the incredible people who make up the TCU community. Our faculty and folks in our Office of Religious and Spiritual Life and Fraternity and Sorority Life and Housing and so on. We have incredible people across our campus. And one of the features of coming to our admitted student events is you get to meet all these people. Well, we're also going to be pushing out some video content to you so that you're going to be able to meet these folks virtually. If it's possible, if the campus can open before June 1st, of course, we would love to be able to host you, but we can't make that commitment right now. So that's where we are at the moment. Okay, Keely asks, how will COVID-19 affect the class of 2021 when applying for early admission? That's a great question, Keely. At this moment in time, we have no intention of changing our deadlines for early action or early decision, or for regular decision for that matter, for the class of 2021. So just so folks are aware, when students apply to TCU, they have the option to apply in one of 3 rounds. Early decision and early action have a deadline of November 1st, and folks who apply by November 1st will have a decision. We promise them a decision no later than January 1st. And really, we just put that in writing so we give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room. Usually, early decision students will find out the first week of December, and early action students will find out about mid-December. The difference, by the way, between those 2 deadlines is that early decision is a binding application. So if students want to commit to coming to TCU, they know we're your number one choice, then early decision is a great option. For students who really like TCU and they know they want to apply but aren't quite prepared to make that decision, early action is a great way to go because you still find out your decision without making any sort of commitment ahead of time. Regular decision has a February 1 deadline, and we let those students know usually in mid-March. And for example, for the class of 20, we just notified students who applied regular decision of their decisions about a week and a half ago. At this point, our assumption is that for the class of 2021, the deadlines will be okay to remain the same. But I think those folks who know TCU and know the TCU Office of Admission know that we have always been incredibly flexible with students, really when it comes to anything. So whether that is a personal issue that a student is facing, or there's been some natural disaster and it causes us to extend deadlines for students from a particular region of the country or the world, we do that for them. We want to do whatever we can to work with students in a way that's going to be beneficial to them and safe for them, frankly. There are times when things happen, like pandemics, where frankly filling out an application is the last thing on your mind, and you just want to make sure that your family is safe. And we share that same concern. We want to make sure that you're safe as well. So a long-winded answer to a short question, but right now I think for class of 2021, the deadlines will remain the same. Now, how we go about looking at those students and reviewing those applications, that's going to be something that our office and the larger university is going to be talking about in the coming months, because as students in high school are required to complete their semesters from home, we're hearing more and more of schools that are choosing to go to a pass no credit option, or a pass-fail option, depending on the language that the school uses. And similarly, TCU just announced that with some very few exceptions, we're going to allow our students to do exactly that they'll have an unlimited number of pass-no credit options for the rest of the semester. So assuming that there are going to be high school communities that do the same thing, we're going to be very flexible in how we view those students. We're not going to make any assumptions that if you have a bunch of passes on your transcript, that means necessarily that you have, low grades. We know that this is a different year. And by the way, that doesn't just go for the class of 2021. That'll be for current high school freshmen and sophomores too, who are going through this same thing. So we're going to work with the high schools just as we always do, learn from the counselors, your high school counselors, to know what your grading system was, how the COVID-19 pandemic might have affected your instruction, and review accordingly. So I hope that answers that question. Melanie asks, she says, I'm an admitted student. When will housing selection be done? Melanie, first of all, congratulations. We're really excited that you have been admitted to TCU. We want you to come. The housing application is slated right now to open on April 1st, but we're going to keep it open longer than normal. So don't feel pressured to send in your enrollment deposit just to be able to fill out your housing form. Every student who commits to TCU as a first-year student will have housing. And there's no priority given to students who submit those housing forms first. And so that you know, in case you don't, all students entering first-year students are required to live on campus their first 2 years at TCU. That is irrespective of whether or not you come in with some advanced credit. So students who have AP credit or IB credit that grants them advanced standing from an academic standpoint, they are still required to live on campus their first 2 years. Okay, Niam, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I apologize if I don't. People have butchered my name for years, so I'm really sensitive to that. Says, I'm a high school junior and TCU is my dream school. Thank you very much. Go Frogs. What can I do now to show interest and make me a competitive applicant for the nursing program? Awesome questions. So, one, this question about demonstrating interest, which I think high school students more and more are sort of catching on to, the importance of showing colleges that you're interested in them, because some colleges very much track that. Going back to the question I answered before about how we're treating the class of 2021, we are not going to assume that every high school student visits TCU. That would be unrealistic under normal conditions, and it's certainly unrealistic now. What we would love to see, though, is that you've been in touch with us. If you've got questions, you seek out the members of our counseling staff. When we come visit your high schools in the fall, which I certainly hope we're going to be able to do, try to sit in on those sessions. If you would like to interview, we do offer interviews that current high school juniors will be able to do starting at some point in the summer. Those are not required. Those are purely optional, but if you want to ask questions and get to know us a little bit better, I think that's a great way to do that as well. And then in response to the second part of your question, what would make you a competitive applicant for the nursing program? That's a very specific question, and the good news is I have a very specific answer to that. The nursing department is looking for students who have some demonstrated experience with nursing, whether that is doing some shadowing or doing research or doing a pre-nursing program on a college campus, something that shows us that you are not just interested in nursing as sort of a passing fancy, but that you are committed to doing it. Our nursing program for years has been incredibly competitive, and so that's something that we look for. The other thing is when we look at your high school transcript, there are two courses that if they are available for you to take your senior year, would put you at an advantage for nursing, and that is one, AP Statistics. So sometimes students think, well, I've got the option to take calculus or statistics, what should I do? For most people, the answer is totally up to you, whichever course speaks to you. For nursing students, they really see statistics as having a great predictive value. So we look for students who have that on their transcript. And the other course that's really important is anatomy and physiology. So if you've got the option to take A&P at your school, please go ahead and do that. That would be really, really helpful. Okay, Lance asks, can you explain how the freshman academic scholarship process works? Do you use weighted GPAs for students taking honors classes in high school? Great question, Lance. What we do both for admission and scholarship is when we're looking at your transcript, we're actually going to recalculate a GPA that is looking strictly at your core academic subjects. So we're going to strip away any A's you've gotten in PE or non-core academic subjects. And then we're going to also take away any weighting that your school has given. It's not because we don't think that those tough classes are important. They are. It's that every high school weights differently. So we take everybody's transcript, we convert it to a standard 4-point scale where an A is worth 4 points, a B is worth 3 points, and so on. And we create what we call your academic GPA. We then will look at your transcript again, see how many honors, AP, IB courses you've taken, and we will assess a curriculum rigor. Every student will be scaled based on how tough the courses that they took were. And that will factor in both when we are looking at students for admission as well as scholarship. So it still definitely behooves students to take tough classes. Now, I think this is a really good time to talk about what we expect in terms of those curriculum choices that students make. Because there are colleges out there that will say, we want you to take the toughest curriculum available to you. You've probably heard that before. I think that that's actually kind of a dangerous message to students because not every student is capable of taking every AP class under the sun. I know from my personal experience when I was in high school, I would not have fared well if I was asked to take 5 AP classes my senior year of high school. I really would have bombed, and it would have been extremely stressful for me in the process from a mental health standpoint. And so what we have done is, based on research that was conducted both by the College Board and by the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, is we have said we're going to cap the number of AP or advanced courses, if your school doesn't offer AP, classes that we expect students to take. Doesn't mean that you can't take more. If you're a student who thrives in an extreme academic setting and you want to take 5 hard classes, go ahead. And we certainly wouldn't look down upon you for that. But what we've learned is that students who finish high school with about 5 or 6 advanced courses, they have proven that they can do college level work. There's no benefit, there's no marginal utility to taking that 8th, 10th, 13th AP class. And so when we do our curriculum rigor assessment, we are not going to give students any boost, so to speak, for taking all of the AP classes that your high school offers. What we're going to do is we're going to see, have you taken enough to demonstrate to us that you can handle the coursework at TCU? Once you do that, you've sort of maxed out on your scale. That will help you from an admission standpoint and from a scholarship standpoint. So I hope that will be helpful to you moving forward as you consider all of this and you consider the courses that you're going to be taking next year. Okay, Jenna asks, I'm still working on my spring semester for transferring. Would I be told by then if I get accepted to transfer in fall 2020? Jenna, first of all, thank you so much for your interest in TCU. Seems like now's a good opportunity to tell folks that we actually enroll several hundred students each year who start their college journeys at another institution. Something like 20% of TCU students are transfer students, and we love our transfer students. So Jenna, absolutely continue working on your spring semester classes. We will make an offer of admission to students if they've got enough coursework before spring semester and we think that they've demonstrated that they can do well at TCU. We may, in fact, go ahead and make an offer of admission, and all offers, of course, are pending a final transcript, and that goes for first-year students as well. We need to see the final grades earned before you actually can start at TCU. But you could, in fact, hear an admission decision. We've already admitted hundreds of students who have applied to TCU to transfer for next fall. So go ahead and finish that application, and we'll go ahead and get that out to you. Okay, Yasmin asks, what makes TCU's pre-med program different from others? It's a great question, Yasmin. We have a fantastic Pre-Health Professions Institute. And when I say Pre-Health Professions Institute, that encompasses the pre-med program, pre-dental, and all of the other pre's that could fit under there for health professionals. I think what distinguishes our pre-med program is similar to what distinguishes a lot of programs at TCU. What is different about us is you're not going to find another college in America where on the one hand, you have the kind of traditional American rah-rah university experience that you'd find at a large flagship state institution with big-time Division I athletics and all of the sort of fun stuff that happens and research and so forth, with the attention that you'd find at a smaller college. And that's because most students at TCU, the vast majority, are undergraduate students. again, if you were to compare us to any other university of mid-size, and by any measure, we'd be considered a mid-size university, you just won't find another school that's quite like TCU. And when you add in the fact that we're located in Fort Worth, which is an amazing city, the 13th largest city in the United States, and all of the opportunities that exist by being in a top 5 media market, then you just can't replicate that. So going back to the question about pre-med, what's different is you're going to have the attention from the faculty who are doing cutting edge research, and you're going to be able to work with them in the labs, and you'd get that attention that you'd find at a really small college. So look, the proof is in the pudding. Our students are being admitted to medical school at about twice the national average. And we're not doing anything to cook the numbers there. We're not preventing students from applying to med school. If students who are in our pre-med program want to apply, they can apply, and they will have all the supports of the university. And despite that, they're still getting in at twice the national average. The other thing to look at is how are they performing once they're on campus, in those medical schools. And what we've learned from UT Southwestern, which is a med school in Dallas, and we have a good number of students who go there every year, is our students, TCU graduates, perform at a higher rate in terms of their med school GPA by about 0.2 of a point compared to all other students who are not coming with the preparation of the TCU pre-med program. So I think there's some distinct advantages. The other thing that's worth noting is when you come from TCU, you're going to have the full weight of our pre-med program behind you. So there's going to be a letter of recommendation, Yasmin, that's written for you when you prepare for medical school. And it's going to be a letter that is team written. So every professor you've had will contribute to that letter. So it really gives the entire weight of the program. So we're very much excited for you and excited about what we have to offer our pre-med students. Okay, let's see. Renee asks, I'm an admitted student and prior to COVID-19 was struggling with statistics, and now that the class is online, I'm worried that I won't do well in the online format. How does TCU view a W, so withdraw at this point in the semester? And I think, Renee, I can very much appreciate what you're experiencing. Again, going back to what I was saying before, we're going to be very flexible with students. If you're struggling transitioning from one format to another, for example, there are many students, and Renee, I'm not talking about you in particular here necessarily, there are many students who have learning differences that really make it difficult for them to learn in this format. We are going to bend over backwards to make sure that we're working with you so that you're going to be able to transition to TCU without as much stress as you might think. So we're going to so hold us to that. If you find that we're putting up a fight, then definitely come see me. Okay, Morgan asks, I wanted to apply to TCU this fall as a transfer student, but my SAT got pushed back to June 6th. Will the deadline be pushed back? So right now we have a deadline of June 1st for our transfer students. I can tell you for sure that we're going to be taking applications for transfer students beyond that. So don't worry about that. And the other good news, Morgan, is if you're transferring from another university, that means you don't have to worry about the SAT or the ACT. Once you demonstrate that you've done well in other university coursework, then we sort of throw that out the window. So don't worry too much about that. Okay, let's see. Alex is wondering, where is the best place for a transfer student to find possible roommates? I'm planning on transferring to TCU in the fall. So Alex, congratulations. We are super excited about you coming to TCU. We want you to transfer. I think there are a number of places where you can do this. You can get in touch with our office and we can try to connect you with students. The housing office looks for opportunities. Frankly, nowadays, a lot of students will go onto Facebook or other social media sites. Really, parents use Facebook more than students, but there are incoming students pages where students will connect with one another and try to find roommates that way. So I think social media is just a great way to do just that. Okay, just want to pause for a breath here, give you an opportunity to ask other questions that you might have. Let's see. If semesters extend to the summer, how do we plan to address the delay in final transcripts? Okay, great question. So I assume that when you say, whoever's asking the question, if you're asking about semesters extending into summer, that you're talking about your high school semesters, because as of now, TCU is not planning to extend into the summer. Again, we're going to be flexible with you. Typically what we do is we send out a call for students to send in their final high school transcripts, to work with their high school counselors to make sure that we get those in the middle of the summer. We usually ask that for that to come in by the end of June. However, since June 1st is now going to be our deadline for the deposit, we will push that back to sometime in the middle of the summer. So if your high school semesters aren't ending until June, which, by the way, many high schools, like out in California, they're not ending until June anyway, and that's absolutely fine. If you find that you're going to have an extension beyond that, again, even if it's a matter of sending us a screenshot of your final transcript until we get something official from your high school counselor or the school registrar, we will do just that. There have been questions, not just in this setting, but we've seen elsewhere about ACT and SAT, which we know has been canceled now for the rest of the spring. And by the way, in certain parts of the world, those tests were already canceled well before this most recent announcement by the College Board and the ACT. We're still working on policy for what we're going to expect from students who are in the class of 2021. There will be opportunities, of course, to take the exam in the fall. And typically, students will have the chance to take the test even before our November 1st deadline, so that if had you taken the test once in the spring of junior year and want to retest in senior year, then we would accept that. But now seems like a good time to just mention generally, TCU, I think, takes about as sane approach to the use of standardized tests as a college can, at least those colleges that still require standardized exams. We recognize that there is some, but somewhat limited predictive value in those standardized tests. It's why students are not denied admission strictly on the basis of that alone, and why we have adopted and for many years applied a holistic review of students' applications for admission. So that is just one piece of the puzzle. If you're concerned you didn't have a chance to take it in the spring and then again in the fall, or you were hoping to take it in the spring and be done with it, that's okay. Don't worry too much about that. I think it's a good practice for students not to plan to take it 3, 4, 5 times anyway, because that's just not a great use of your time. At this point in time, knowing that those standardized tests have been canceled for the spring, this is a good chance for you to just focus squarely on performing as well as possible for the rest of the semester. Okay, we have a question from Nguyen on how the transferring process from a community college works to get into the pre-med program. Really, it works much the same way. We typically, for students who are interested in pursuing the pre-med path, the most common majors are biology, biochemistry, chemistry, and neuroscience. Okay? Now, by the way, you don't have to major in one of those areas in order to be pre-med. We've had students who've majored in the fine arts be pre-med, and in the arts and sciences, or in the liberal arts, and that's okay too. But those are the 4 most popular majors. If you're planning to transfer from either a 2-year or a 4-year college to TCU, typically for biology, we're looking for slightly stronger grades, but that doesn't mean still that you can't come into TCU and choose the coursework that you think is going to put you on the best path for professional success. We're not going to stop you from doing that. Now, we have advisors in place who are going to help you understand likelihoods. If you have a 2.6 GPA from another school and you sort of just barely made it into TCU, pre-med might not be the best path for you, but we're not going to actually stop you from doing it. We're going to let you try that out, and we're going to work with you to provide the best academic support possible so that you will succeed. Okay, so John Melton asks, is TCU still accepting credit from AP exams even after they were shortened and turned into an online test? At this point, we have no policy in place to not do that. I have to still speak with the academic deans and department chairs to see how they're going to view those exams. I would expect that at this point we're still going to accept that. My concern at this point is how equitable turning to an online format is for students who don't have connectivity or have intermittent connectivity, and what that means for them and the ability to take a shortened version of the AP exam. So that's going to be part of the calculus too when we're thinking about what our policy is going to be for those students. Okay. I see Marianne asks about getting a credit refund from housing and meal plan, and that's for current students. And I believe the university has announced that will happen for students who are living on campus. There will be a credit to the account, and it's going to be prorated by the amount of time the student has lived in the residence halls. But more information, more particulars will be expressed at a later time. Okay. Sansa asks, will you be adding more virtual tours or opening tours back up for students who have been admitted to TCU? You were planning to visit from California in April. And I'm so sorry, Sansa, that we weren't able to host you in the month of April. We were so looking forward to that. Initially, in fact, we had canceled our admitted student programs, or all of our visit programs, only through April 3rd, and only recently had to extend that through the rest of the spring semester, which is too bad because our campus is absolutely gorgeous right now. And for those of you who are checking in from parts of the country where the weather's a little bit tougher during the month of March, I just have to say it's like 70 in Texas today. It's absolutely beautiful here. So just to plant that seed in your head that this is a great place to go to school, if for no other reason than the weather. But to get back to your question, yes, we're going to be beefing up our virtual tour experiences. One of the things that we're going to be doing very soon is reaching out to our current students, those who have what we call our student foundation. Those are the students who are tour guides and help usher students and parents around campus when they come visit. We're going to reach out to them and ask that they create some virtual content so that you're hearing from students, because frankly, as interesting or uninteresting as I am, if you're a student, you really don't want to hear from me. You want to know what it's like to be a student at TCU. So we're going to get that out here in the not too distant future, and we're just putting the final touches on that. Okay, Shell says, hi, I've committed already, and when I applied to TCU, I wasn't declared as a pre-law student, but now I would like to. How would I go about changing that? So first of all, Shell, thank you so much. We're excited that you're going to be part of the TCU community, and you're going to have an amazing 4-year experience to TCU. Declaring of a major, I'll start with just declaring majors in general. When students fill out their application, we ask them to select a major that they're interested in, and based on what they put on the application, that's where they're going to start. At any point during the process, a student can contact our office and ask us to change the major that they're starting in. Because when we're reviewing students for the university, for the most part, we're just reviewing you for admission to TCU. Our assumption is that you're going to change your major once, twice, or 3 times, because that's what most college students do. So it's not critically important that you know exactly what you want to study for the next 4 years. So if at this point you're thinking you want to do something else, go ahead and contact us. Once students are gearing up for orientation, what happens is we will, and this is a very technical process that happens, but we actually matriculate the students through our system, and it's sort of a virtual handoff from our office to the registrar's office. Once that happens, we can no longer make changes to the major in our office, and that goes through the registrar or through your college. But at this point, you can still go ahead and make that request. As far as pre-law goes, Shell, that's not actually a major. That's what we would call a track. So a student can be pre-law while studying anything at the university that they would like. It's housed in our political science department because it's very common for political science students to go on to law school, but you don't have to be a poli-sci major to do that. You could be a history major, which is also in AdRan. You could be a kinesiology major. You could be a physics major, really anything, and still be pre-law. So then you would need to connect with the pre-law program, and they'll make sure that they're setting you up for success. So you'll have a pre-law advisor in addition to your academic advisor, so that you're taking courses not only that are going to ensure that you graduate from TCU on time, but also so that you're going to be taking classes that are going to be most attractive for law school. So I hope that helped answer your question. Jenna asks a question about aid. And so it's a great time to talk about financial aid and scholarships. Every student who is admitted to TCU is automatically going to be considered for academic scholarships. It's not something that you actually apply for. So your application for admission is your application for academic scholarship. Students who are admitted to the university, if they are awarded an academic scholarship, they're actually going to find that out at the same time that they find out their offer of admission inside the portal. So students will be sent an email letting them know your admission decision is ready, check the portal, and if you've been given a scholarship, that will appear there as well. When it comes to need-based financial aid, students are required to submit both the free application for federal student aid, that's called the FAFSA, that's run through the Department of Education, and every college in America that receives federal funding will require that of you. And we also require something called the CSS Financial Aid Profile, and that's run through the College Board. And there are several hundred colleges, not the majority, but several hundred colleges that require the profile as well. The reason why we require the profile is because the Department of Education form, the FAFSA, asks questions that are fairly surface level, and they don't allow us to evaluate your family's finances in a way that helps us understand who are the neediest among the students who have applied to TCU, because we want to make sure that we're giving money to the families who really most need the money, because we don't want finances to be an obstacle between students following through on their dream to come to TCU. So fill out the FAFSA, fill out the profile. We've already gone through, for students who've been admitted, the first wave of award notifications from our financial aid office. Those went out recently. If you have just recently completed the FAFSA and the profile, you can expect in the near term to receive the financial aid package from our financial aid office as well. For students or parents of students who are on here who are not high school seniors, but maybe you are the parent of a student who is a high school junior or younger. In addition to those resources, you might also think about something called Raise Me. We have partnered with Raise Me. It's a micro scholarship site that allows students to enter in their accomplishments throughout high school, and for each accomplishment that they have, whether that's an A in an honors class or being president of a club or lots of other options that are in there, then you can actually earn money for each of those accomplishments. Micro scholarships, you might get $100 for one thing, $50 for something else, but over time, over the course of 4 years, that adds up and really can help defray the cost of a college education. We are one of the Raise Me partners. So long as a student adds TCU to their profile by December 1st of their senior year, then they will automatically be awarded those monies, even if you don't get an academic scholarship through our normal process. We guarantee that we're going to give you at least what you have earned through Raise Me. And it's it's not just our entering first year students. We've actually partnered recently and joined Raise Me's new transfer platform as well. So we're one of the few colleges, maybe the only college, or certainly the first college in Texas that is on the Raise Me platform for transfer students. So we're excited to offer that to you. Another opportunity to consider is something called FastWeb. It's a scholarship repository. So if you've already filled out FAFSA and profile and you're looking for outside sources of scholarship, it's a database that is searchable and is quite beneficial to students. So make sure that you're on top of that. Again, sometimes the most difficult part of my job is not talking to families where the student hasn't been admitted. Don't get me wrong, that's not a pleasant conversation. But frankly, the more heartbreaking conversation is with the student who has gotten in, who dreams of coming to TCU, but whose family just can't make it work financially. So we want you to exhaust every possible resource for you in terms of scholarships that you can, so that you can make TCU affordable. So thanks, that's a great question. Angela asks, are there any current students that we can put you in touch with about Greek life at TCU? Absolutely. If you, first of all, if you could reach out directly to the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life, and I think they would be willing to help you out. But in the absence of that, if you email us at frogmail@tcu.edu and ask us to put you in touch with students, we will do just that. We will find students for you to connect with. Okay, I know that some folks weren't able to join us right at the beginning, so I want to revisit a couple of the comments I made earlier about the first year experience. This year, of course, is already looking different from any other year that we've had. We will have orientation. We will have Frog Camp in some form this year. Typically, those orientation sessions open up in May, and students may have already even registered for that. That obviously isn't happening, but our first year experience programs are aiming right now to have their registration begin on May 1st, and there will be a different version of the first year experience that will happen later in the summer. But it's really important to know, the takeaway here is, if you are a high school senior and you are committed to coming to TCU, or you're thinking about coming to TCU, you absolutely will still have a first year experience program that will extend not only through that portion at the end of the summer as you transition to TCU, but our first year experience, of course, happens throughout the first year, because connection is really key, and it's so important to what makes TCU TCU. I think if you have spent any time on our campus, spoken to our faculty and staff, you know that there very much is a family feel on our campus. I know that there are some parents who are on here who have high school students but who've already sent students through TCU or have current students here, and they probably would vouch for me on that. It's a very warm and friendly environment, and it's a place where you're going to get a lot of support, and in an environment where you're going to have opportunities for bold leadership, and on a very spirited campus as well. The housing form will be available through June 15th. So even students who decide to deposit to TCU as late as June 1st, they're still going to have the opportunity to fill out the housing form. We do have vaccination requirements, meningitis and MMR. The MMR vaccinations, there are actually 2 of them, and they have to be taken a month apart. So if you're thinking about TCU, or if you're planning to come to TCU, just plan that accordingly. We obviously do not want to put any undue stress on health departments right now, on any medical facilities, but you are going to want to pay attention to those deadlines and what is required of you before you can live in housing at TCU. And that is, by the way, because I see a question from Gavin, that's how you're going to be able to clear the hold status from the health centers, through those vaccinations. Okay. I think the questions are slowing down a little bit. We've been at it for a little more than 45 minutes. I want you to know that we are so excited to be here. Even though many of us are not on campus right now, there's still a lot happening. We're still delivering on the TCU promise, and we will continue to do that no matter what. We've banded together as a community, and I think it's in these moments of crisis when we really learn what communities are really about. And I've learned a lot about TCU, even though I've been at TCU now for 8 years. I've learned a lot about what it means to be part of this community just over the last 3 weeks or so. Again, sort of the thoughts I want to leave you with are, number 1, we are extending our enrollment deposit deadline to June 1st. Number 2, if you need to reach us in any way, you can find us at frogmail at tcu.edu. You can go to our website, admissions.tcu.edu. There's a ton of information, lots of frequently asked questions, and you can find more information there. You can reach out to me personally if you want at admissiondean@tcu.edu. You can call our office. We are still answering our phones. You can find us at 817-257-7490. Thanks so much. Stay safe. Wash your hands. We'll be with you real soon. Go Frogs.